Welcome back to another episode of Relatively Damaged Live. I'm Angela.
And I'm Kat.
The live shows are currently streamed Mondays on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Remember to follow and subscribe. And, of course, share with your friends if you like these discussions. On the Monday segment of the show, Kat and I discuss topics we find interesting for about 30 minutes. Today's topic, you guessed it, love.
And Angela, I'm going to pop off camera for 1 second, but I'm hearing you, so go ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm having a little technical emergency here. But go ahead and get us started, and I will be back on momentarily.
Of course. So one of the things that I looked up, or one of the quotes that I found, was love is forgiving, not forgetting. Not for forgiving, but for giving, like giving away. And the more you give, the more fully it fills your heart to overflowing. So I tried that. And amazingly, it's true. So whatever you have in front of you right now, feel free to, I don't know, like I have a water bottle in front of me. And when I look to that and I look with love, then I think of all these great things that come from having a water bottle full of water. And then it might even go further to, where did that water come from? Oh, we lost Kat again. Wait, I think she's ready.
I'm ready. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. We got to love our imperfections, you know? I'm going to give my imperfections that love. And, you know, actually, that's a great thing to talk about, because what happens when we give our imperfections, or what we believe are our imperfections, love? Maybe it's not so bad.
I would say not. You know, here I'm looking. Reason we weren't on live last week is I had a surgery, and you may see this on my face. And I'm looking at that, and it's kind of really made me look at imperfections. Because here right now I'm in this process of healing, and I see visibly. I look in the mirror, and I see this imperfection on my face. And it's made me kind of think of that metaphorically in terms of the imperfections that I see in myself and my character, in how that is not what my core values are, what my ideal is of myself. There's an incongruence there. And so loving those imperfections in myself allows me to take care of them as I take care of this scar on my face, and the healing that needs to be going on. So with the scar, I'm putting on moisture to keep it moist so it doesn't dry out and, you know, scar further, to minimize the scar that I will have after it's healed. But to also, so it's that kind of internal scar. So look at that imperfection and love that imperfection in the way, and heal it to make it better, so that I can become closer to the ideals and the core values that I hold, and the kind of person that I really want to be.
So having the scar is almost a metaphorical, you can use it in a metaphorical fashion for even emotional scars.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And so that
Um,
loving the scar is similar to maybe loving anger and frustration that arises inside.
exactly. Loving the wound,
Mm-hmm.
and then loving the scar, because afterwards it's that scar that will give me that reminder of the lesson that I learned. So
Mm.
remembering the anger, remembering the frustration, remembering the resentment, um, and learning from that and saying, okay, yeah, that was, I remember that. And I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to go back there. So what can I do if something else comes up like that again? And take
So
that and love that.
instead of fighting it or saying that's wrong or that's horrible, it's okay, yeah, that happened and it makes sense why I responded
Hmm.
that way, and then loving it. But I think that sometimes there's this idea that that's not okay. That's not the best way to go, because how are we going to make changes if we're not beating ourselves up about, but that's wrong and nobody should do it that way. And then there's this internal conversation. You see where I'm going?
Well, there's okay. So you can approach it about beating yourself up. I'm wrong. Oh my God, I'm a horrible person. I need to fix this. Or you can say, I'm damaged. I need to repair it. I need
Mm.
to show that love to it. So it's a matter of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of how you're looking at it and saying, how am I going to treat this? Am I going to damage myself further by beating myself up? Am I going to damage my scar on my face by picking off the scabs and scratching it and doing that? Or am I going to lovingly wash it and put ointment on it and make sure that I care for it? Either way, the damage is still there.
Right.
It's how I approach it. So if I do that same thing in that loving way to myself when I'm angry or hurt or resentful, and love that, it doesn't make it any less damaged,
Mm-hmm.
but how I come out of it is very different.
Explain.
Um, if I'm beating myself up, so I'm already angry, frustrated, hurt, resentful. And if I'm trying to force that fixing of myself, it reinforces that idea that I'm bad, that I'm wrong, that I'm less than, that I'm unworthy, um, and it just confirms everything. So it would lead me into a cycle of resentments and anger and frustration in doing that. But if I look lovingly at the situation, I can break out of it instead of fighting anger with anger or frustration with frustration or resentment with resentment. So I
Mm-hmm.
resent somebody else, so I'm going to resent myself for resenting somebody else. I mean, that's just in a cycle. It's just ridiculous. When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. But going into that thing and saying, okay, I am resentful at this situation. Looking as why I'm resentful. Looking at that situation in that loving way and saying, okay, and then deciding what to do about it, what salve to put on it, how should I wash that wound,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then let it heal.
Well, yeah, and just to maybe not as a comparison, but how I deal with my pain to the best of my ability. If I'm fighting against it, there's that in that it shouldn't be here. Like I think it was Byron Katie, to be in pain and think I'm not supposed to be. Now that is hell, and it really is. I think it almost makes the pain worse. And so if I can look at it, I think it's Susanna and Perron Bear say something to the effect of, oh, pain, if everyone else left me, you would still be there, you know. And pain, it just is, you know. And
Hmm.
sometimes we like stepping outside and loving it. It gives it more room, kind of like the parable about becoming a lake. If we
Hmm.
put the salt in a cup and we drink that salt water, it is not going to taste good at all. But take that same amount of salt and put it in the lake, and then take a cup of water from the lake. And because there was so much more room, the bitterness isn't there. And in fact, it tastes pretty good, you
Right.
know? And I think that love does that same thing. It expands.
Well, it's that loving in that pain. Exactly. So here, here I'll take an example. So when I first got out of the surgery, they had given me pain pills.
Mm-hmm.
They had given me 5 pain pills, and it was to get me over that initial hump of the shock to my system and the initial pain that it would cause. And all that did was help to lessen the pain. And sometimes might find something that we think is loving, but it's only a temporary fix.
Mm.
So I'm thinking about, let's say so we talked about anger and resentment and sadness. Let's think about self-worth. So if my self-worth depends on somebody else loving me,
Mm.
if you love me, then I'm worthy. What happens when you don't feel that love?
Well, and how can we? You know, have you ever been thought you were in love with someone and they clearly did not feel the same way, or vice versa? Someone's like, I'm in love with you, and it's like, hold on a second, I'm not having those feelings. Like,
Yes, yes,
that's a
yes.
huge thing. In fact, it was in the last year that I was doing a meditation on the back porch, and I remember this feeling coming up inside of me as I'm doing this great meditation that was just really beautiful. And there are no words that can ever explain, I think, a spiritual experience. But the feeling that came up was this immense amount of love. And, as I open my eyes and I look around, and it's like, okay, no one else is there. No one was there, but I was feeling loving towards everything and everyone. And it was in that moment, it was like, wait, hold on a second. This doesn't come from anyone else. No one gives this to me. I give this to me by loving other people. And I don't know that lesson really hit home till a little bit later, but that feeling is it's just so beautiful. Like I was saying at the beginning, if I decide to love, let's see, now I'll say my chapstick, right? Like when I look at my chapstick and I'm like, and I think about all the great things when I put on my chapstick, it softens my lips. You know, all the smell, the this, the that, whatever it is, that feeling rises up out of my heart space. I don't take it from anyone. No one gives that to me. It's all right here already. And I think that's really interesting, because I think sometimes we get into relationships and there come these expectations that if so and so doesn't give me this or this, then they don't love me. Well, that's just not true.
Right.
But that's how I lived my life for a very long time. I thought it came from other people, and it didn't.
Yes. And that's why I brought that up about the self-esteem issue, because we think that love is something external,
Yeah.
and it's really internal. And we've what is the origin of that? We say it's internal. I choose to say that that's God in me.
Yeah. Well, and
That that
depending
it,
on
that eternal universal love that is everywhere, that we all have and we all hold. And when we tap into that,
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Yeah. And I think it depends on people's beliefs, but if we go God is love, and then the light of Christ is from God, and God is love, and the light of Christ is in everything, then we're all love. Everything.
Everything.
The chair I'm sitting on, the computer screen I'm looking at, all of this arose out of something.
I was listening to a podcast the other day by James Finley, reflecting on Thomas Merton. And one of the things that he said, he said, I encourage you to do an exercise that if God did not love you, you wouldn't even be here. You wouldn't be sitting in that chair. You would, if God ceased to love you, you would just disappear. And that was very deep for me to reflect on that. And just to think that that I'm here.
Well, just think about all the things that had to go just right for it to be you or me or the plant, like the flowering of a plant, the way that the sun needs to hit it, the nutrients in the ground. Like, it's so much more, I think, than sometimes we just don't think about it on a daily basis. I don't think. I don't know many people who think about it consistently.
Well, we're so busy with the day-to-day living and in our own selves that we sometimes don't stop to think about what it is. And I think one of the things that I have really been learning lately is that idea of stepping back and being grateful. And tapping into that through meditation, through prayer, that source of the love. And I find, I went to a wake last week, and I saw some cousins of mine there. And if you're regular viewers of the show, you might have heard the coffee story. And it was not the cousin who did the coffee, but his brother, who was equally as bad to me growing up. And there was part of me that had a resentment against him for that. And we were standing out in the parking lot, and we were just talking. And I had this love for him that I never had before. And I was kind of amazed by it. Because the hurt, the pain, the resentment from those childhood wounds, it was like, okay. Yeah. Tapping into that source of love just gave me that feeling that I had never had before. I loved him because I was supposed to, because he's family. Not because
or because you could. Like, not an obligation, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's how I loved him before. This time I had this love for him just because I saw him for who he was. And he even said, it was funny, he even said that he had seen the show, and he's like, that's too deep for me. He says, it's not my thing. But I appreciated that he took the time to at least try to come on and watch our show. And that showed me something about him that I hadn't realized before, that he too has that, even with all that childhood torment, he still had that love for me to at least tune in.
Yeah. Like, like, isn't that so beautiful?
I thought it was.
That there could, it's like loving that enemy, and doing, and really not, that's not to say it's not like forgive and forget. loving is not that. And when I say loving someone, but loving someone that maybe has hurt you in a way, not that you know the answers for them, but because they are worth love. And that doesn't mean not having boundaries. Some of the most loving things I think we can do is set a clear boundary. And because that is also love. It's not love to myself if I'm not setting a clear boundary with one of the kids or whomever. And it's certainly not me not loving them when I'm setting a boundary for myself. Because, right. Really what it comes down to, I think, is I would be the one to be resentful and I would be the one to be angry. And if I am in those places, can I be love? No. So it's not helpful for me to be like, oh, but love is letting them do what they need or they need. No, my needs are just as important. And it's about finding balance. I had this conversation with one of the kids last week. I said, now there has been an update in our schedule. And it's not about you fixing it or me fixing it. It's about us working as a team, connecting, and making it work for both of us. And sometimes I think we forget that it's that connection,
Yeah. Just like we're connected to the source of love, everyone else is.
Yeah.
So
I was going to, sorry. I was going to say one of the practices someone had, Fred, I'm calling Fred out. He said, like walking down the street, that other person is a part of you. That, that homeless person. What happens when you shift that perspective to, ooh, because it only takes a second. That could have been me.
Mm-hmm.
I also could have been the billionaire. I could have been, I'm not, but something changes when I look and go, wow, that's hard. Or, wow, that's fantastic. Look at that, and not take it personally that it has anything to do with or without me.
That's beautiful. And yes, very true.
Yeah. Like the hand of, I don't love my hand any less than I love my foot. They're just different parts.
Right.
I might not like this role sometimes, but But I love something Nirmala says, which is this truth that you are filled with love when you love rather than when you are loved can free you from the search for love outside of yourself.
And
I think when we stop searching and just start being that love, something beautiful happens.
I could not agree more with that. And I like, for those of you who may know this, we do a heart meditation um, regularly, and that is one of the things that we reflect on when we were not at our best, and it reminds us that we weren't in our heart.
Mm-hmm.
And in that practice, it's where the love lives, is the heart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we have hearts for Valentine's Days and things like that. And we talk about heartbreak and, my heart is full, because that has been metaphorically the place where love lives, and maybe even really physically where love lives.
Yeah, in the heart. Trevor says if you keep looking for it until you find, sometimes you'll find things you don't. I think that's what all find things you don't want to find. So I think what he could be referring to is looking for love and finding other than what you're looking for, instead of acknowledging that it's inside, that it comes from us. But something I wanted to, that kind of came up for me when you mentioned the meditation, was the one we did this last weekend, where it was, we were really looking at acceptance. And when the question came up, it's like, what is it that I'm noticing these things I'm grateful for, and I can accept those, but how come I can't accept these other things that I'm not grateful for? And in fact, I try to, like, just even pondering that, it's like, ooh, ouch. Like, what happens if I love those things?
Well, see, that goes to show you just how far we have to go. Here, we think about those questions. We have a regular practice that we think about that. And I just look at gratitude that I have that I can look at those things. And it makes me realize how much I don't know, how much farther I have. And whenever I think, if I start to think, get in my ego and think I'm more enlightened than other people, it really goes to show you that not. The only thing that I have is that I practice.
Yeah.
And that's a choice that we all make.
Yeah.
To practice loving myself, to practice loving others, and to connect to the source of universal love.
Yeah.
Now, in my little thing, I know we're getting towards the end of time. I happen to drop my phone, and I'm just going to bend down and pick it up because I have my quote on there.
Oh, we love quotes. Come on. This is our show.
So, all right. So this is a quote from one of my favorite authors, John O'Donohue. And he says, there is a lovely idea in the Celtic tradition that if you send out goodness from yourself, or I would say love, or if you share that which is happy or good or loving within you, it will all come back to you multiplied 10,000 times. In the kingdom of love, there is no competition, there is no possessiveness or control. The more love you give away, the more love you will have.
I love that. Speaking of love. And I think that, like, it's reminding me of Dr. David Hawkins said, well, why did it remind me of that? I'm not sure why. Love is misinterpreted as an emotion. In reality, it is a state of consciousness, a way of being. That's why. In the world, a way of seeing oneself and others. Like in the John O'Donohue quote, it's just so beautiful. Because, hold on, now I have to see it again. But I'm always amazed at why things come up for me. Sending out goodness. Okay, hold on. I want to know now why these connected for me. Hold on. Because if you see love, if you see yourself as love, and you also see others as love, so if you that last sentence, the more love you give away, the more you will have. It just magnifies.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's what I think the kind of point I was trying to make was that if I'm more loving towards myself and more loving towards others and tapping into that source of love, it just multiplies. It's exponentially. That I can find love where I never could before until I started this practice of love.
Yeah, I had someone ask me on social media. We had posted something to the effect of meeting someone else's shame, frustration, hatred, whatever it was, with love, and something to the effect that even when you meet something with love, someone else can become upset. And that's true. So the question is, so then I thought, well, okay, that does happen. And what if we also meet that with love? And then let's say it happens again. Okay, what if we meet that with love? Like, just really coming down to, it doesn't matter what the other people do. It only can begin with us.
Right. And, why do we hold people like Gandhi and Martin Luther King in such high esteem? Because they lived out that love. And they showed that path of love in order to find justice, in order to find that other thing. But it was a path of love.
Yeah. I mean, some of those people, and I know we're a little bit over time, emulated it in the toughest of situations. They continued to love and to find ways to love. And I don't think that said walk all over me. That meant, setting clear boundaries and for themselves and for others.
Exactly.
Kat, thanks for such a wonderful show. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. May you find the love within yourself and give it to others.
Oh, ditto. Thanks, everybody. I'm Angela. And
I'm
this
Kat.
is Kat. And we'll see you next week. Bye.